Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome back to Naylo's Thrift Talk. I'm Lola.
And I'm Nay.
And if you're new to our channel, we are a weekly live YouTube show that is all about thrifting and reselling and all the different ways that we like to use secondhand items in our daily lives. And today we're doing an episode that's a little bit more focused on thrifting for ourselves because I feel like we don't do as many as we should or we'd like to. So today we have 10 tips for thrifting your own wardrobe. Nay, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, that's great because we do talk a lot about reselling, about thrifting for
Mm.
reselling, but today we're going to be, and I mean, through the course of our episodes, we talk about thrifting for ourselves, but we haven't done an actual show devoted to it. So
Yeah.
so we have some tips for you today. First, though, we do have our regular segment, so very appropriate for today's topic. What are you wearing that's thrifted, Lola?
Well, I was just telling you before we went live that I feel like I'm cycling through all of my vintage flannel collection because it is that time of year. It's like, finally becoming perfect fall weather here. And it also kind of plays into one of my tips for thrifting. So I thought it was appropriate to keep up the trend. So this is one of my coziest flannels. It's actually probably the cheapest. Like most of my collection is wool or cotton, and this is actually acrylic. So I almost passed on it, but it fits really well. It's really soft and cozy and broken in. So it's just one of my favorite shirts to throw on, usually just as a layer, almost like a sweatshirt. Yeah.
Do you remember what you paid for it?
Oh gosh. I think I got it at Circle Thrift, and all of their tops were like $4 or $5. So probably somewhere around there.
We're totally worth it. And again, not something you would pick up to resell, but
Right.
for yourself, it was a
I
score.
mean, it would probably be worth $20 to $30. Just knowing that there is, like the vintage 80s. This might be early 90s, but that kind of time period, vintage flannel tends to do okay, but not like knocking it out of the park kind of.
Right. So I guess I will introduce my lovely Manny behind me first. So she is wearing one of my favorite cardigans, which is like, it's like kind of pilly and the brand is Simply Styled by Sears. Sears is now going out of business completely. So so it's not even a brand that I'd normally pick up or anything. I probably paid $4.99 for it at my Goodwill. It's just like oversized and comfy, and I wear it all the time. It's so warm in the winter. I do have what I think is a real Louis Vuitton bag. I have not had it authenticated, but I've decided to just keep it for me because I don't, and I would like to get it authenticated one day. From everything I've seen about it, I do believe it's real, but there is that off chance. I don't ever recommend you purposely buying non-authentic items, but if in the event you do, you should either destroy them or you can keep them for yourselves and have something, but I do believe this one is real, but not authenticated. This is one of my favorite scarves. It's nothing like no major brand, but it is from the bins. And one of my favorite breast cancer hats. I do thrift a lot of hats and I wear them like when I'm exercising, when I'm walking, they're great for bad hair days. So,
and Heather wants to see, was it the scarf or the hat? Close up.
I'm not sure. I can't.
The bag. Probably the bag.
The bag. If I bring it over here, it's gonna. I don't want to knock the whole thing over. I have a bunch of stuff on the floor, but the bag. Okay, I can get it.
Let's see. Angelique, I feel like that's a lot of my thrifting for myself too. I love getting just like a cozy, oversized men's shirt and a pair of leggings. And
here is the bag.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, if it is a fake, it's a very well done, but I'm not 100% sure. It's got the what do you call it? The not suede, but the soft lining that the bag comes with. And so, but I am wearing this is actually, so I know PETA is controversial for some people, but I'm a PETA fan because they do a lot of good for animals, and I'm vegetarian, and so I found this at the thrift one day, and it does have a giraffe on it too, so that of course. But it's a PETA, and it's about it's anti-animal testing, which is one of the things that I don't believe in. I don't buy products that are tested on animals. So, and then this cardigan was $1. It is a size medium, but it's like really, I mean, I've lost weight, so it fits me now. For a while it didn't, but it's also oversized, so it's really comfy. It does have belt hoops and no belt to it. It's not a robe. It's definitely like a cardigan. It's not, but it's like that robe material. Yeah, so I wear it. I wear it all the time, like around the house, I'm always cold. So it's like one of my go-to items. And it's not something I would have bought because it's kind of like, the fleece is kind of pilly and but it's still soft. But it's not something I would have resold, but for me, for $1, it was like a no-brainer. So that's everything.
Totally.
Yeah. And our home decor segment this week. What do you have this week, Lola?
I have. So last week I mentioned how I've been reorganizing all of my bookshelves, and one of the things that happened was that this beautiful bookend needs a new home because the place where it was now is like totally full of books. But this is a beautiful marble bookend. I did buy the pair on eBay, and unfortunately one of them fell quite light and broke. Yeah, so I only have one left. But I learned when I was first looking for bookends that they can be quite expensive. And I felt like I really lucked out with this one because unfortunately for the seller, I think that they might have actually lost money on the sale because it is very heavy and I did not pay that much for shipping and I did not pay that much for the pair of bookends. So I just been kind of stalking my saved search for bookends on eBay, looking for one that wasn't going to break the bank. And this is the one that I ended up getting. And I love that the bottom has it looks like maybe a serial number. And then it says 60s Italy.
Oh, wow.
It has what I assume is the store where it was originally purchased.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So definitely one of my favorite eBay purchases, and I will have to find just the right place for him because it deserves to be on a bookshelf somewhere.
Heather says retail. What's retail? I agree.
Well, you can see, Heather, the retail store looks like this was purchased retail quite a while ago.
Oh, yeah. I think that's a vintage retail.
Definitely vintage.
Yeah, prices.
Yeah, that's like my listing and working uniform is cozy clothes, as my mom likes to say.
Yes. And with the pandemic, I was saying how it was kind of a shock because 2 weekends back to back, I had, and I'll talk about that in a minute, events to go to. And I've been staying home, I've been extra cautious. Like I still go out. When I go anywhere, I wear a mask. First indoor dining experience in 18 months last weekend for a friend's birthday. Of course, it was great because everybody has to be vaccinated to go in the door. And I was happy with that because it made me feel safer. But I had to get 2 outfits, because this weekend I have my niece's wedding too. So I was like, oh no, I can't just go in
this whole new experience, like dressing differently than we have been for a while. Yeah.
And it was hard too, because I've lost a lot of weight and I really am in between sizes where like my small clothes are still too small, but my larger clothes are swimming on me. So I did have to get some outfits for these events. So we'll talk about that. Anyway, this is my home decor item. So this is, I don't know, it's Giacomo Puccini. It's an Italian artist. It's a print, obviously, but it's in my kitchen. I have a shelf, a really silly shelf that I'd love to rip out, but it's like useless and there could be cabinets there. But anyway, I have this picture on it because I figured, I'll do something. And it adds a little pop of color to my kitchen. And I spent $2.99 at Goodwill.
Nice. And the sticker is still there, of course.
It's still on there. And it was in February of 2018. So I've had it for a while. But yes. So sometimes those, prints, can add some a nice little touch to your home decor. And even they're not expensive, and this came in the frame and everything. So.
Oh yeah, Lisa points. So it's Puccini is the composer, and
Oh, okay.
the house is like an opera poster. That makes sense. Yeah.
It's an opera. Okay, so that's good to know. Thank you.
Now you know a little bit more about it.
I do, because I am not familiar with operas. So I am familiar with artists. So I thought it was just an artist that I didn't know, but now I know. So perfect.
My family has a joke that I drag my dad to the opera once every 10 years, and it's almost 10 years again. So I'll have to decide what we're doing.
I have never been to an opera. So.
Oh, it's fun. We should go sometime. The New York
Opera. All right. So getting into, actually we have a couple of announcements first. So I am hosting my first Posh Party. So this is the email that I got. So it is the Wardrobe Wishlist Posh Party on September 27th. And it's the big one, which is at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. So they do like a major kind of like all categories, like anything goes. It's not just specific brands. So that's the one that I am hosting. And yeah, so I did my little announcement on Poshmark. So yeah. So
I mean, I don't want to overstep, but I'm assuming that if any of our viewers have Poshmark items that might be contenders for Posh Party picks, say that 10 times fast.
Yes.
They could send you.
Yeah, you can send me
on Poshmark.
I might not be able to pick all of them because I only do get 100 host picks in the room. But yeah, but if you have, if you want to send me a link to your Posh Closet or a specific item that you would like to be featured, I will consider it. If you can email us at nalothrifts@gmail.com, or you can just message me if you know me. So.
Or send it to you on Poshmark, probably.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, if you want to, you could also comment on my listing.
Tag you on it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm Thrifting and Poshmark. So comment on my listing, and I know a lot of the hosts get bombarded with like hundreds and hundreds, and so you can't pick everyone's. But I would love to pick some of our viewers' listings if I can. So. And am I serving cocktails? No, it's not that kind of a party. It's I'll just be sharing items the whole time. So
maybe we should though. I'm kind of tempted to like pour myself a drink and enjoy looking through your party that evening. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, it will be fun. So participate in that party. And then next week we have some very special guests who some of you probably know. So Matt and Aaron, they are a husband couple. They live in Texas, and they are resellers. They have some interesting items. So they do a lot. I know they do a lot of toys and plush. Matt is like a plush guru. So that's a little bit out of our wheelhouse. So that'll be fun to talk about. And they also sell on a platform called Pop Shop Live, which is like a little bit of a mix between YouTube and Instagram and like any reseller platform. So it's kind of a fun new platform, and they do that quite a bit now. So they'll talk about that. Their store is called Pete's Treasures. Pete is their dog. And so they will be on, we're doing that at a special time because of their work schedule. So it will be next Wednesday evening, the 29th, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. So that's a very unusual time for us, but we are happy to accommodate guests when their schedules don't work out with ours. Yeah.
And I know that some of you who are watching not live can't make it during the day on Friday when we do our live show. So hopefully we will see some of your faces live for the first time. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, that'll be fun. So we are looking forward to that. And without further ado, we'll go into our main segment.
So Nay, you want to take the first one?
Sure.
As usual, we have great.
No, I didn't mean to
save that for the end.
Yeah, we're going to save it for the end. It was an accident. Okay. So our first tip, let me grab the banners here. Okay. Our first tip is if you're shopping for a special event, buy the main piece, like the dress first, then shop for the matching accessories. So this is I found this, and again, I will put these in the description when I get a chance, Lola, or I will pop them in there. But I found she was searching for a party, and she said she had no black in her wardrobe, and her friend was having a birthday party that required all black. So she went talking about like how she found the perfect black dress for herself, and just some of the and again, it was an H&M dress, so it wasn't anything like special. But it was kind of fun, like her putting together her outfit for this special event. So, and in the same fashion, so I told you about these 2 events that I'm going to. So the first event, the second event, actually, the one that's coming up this weekend, is a wedding. My cousin's daughter, who's my niece, she's getting married, and I did kind of cheat. I bought my dress on Amazon. Normally, if I hadn't had the kids home, because they just went back to school like only a couple weeks ago, and I'd had more time to go thrift store shopping and all, I would have bought it at a thrift store. But I did take the easy way out and just get a dress on Amazon, and I was lucky it happened to fit. It wasn't any exciting brand. It wasn't, it was like a mass produced, but it was a pretty dress. So my dress
is really nice. Yeah.
It's really pretty. So it's just a basic green dress. Okay. So I decided from there, I wanted to go with silver accessories. So, basically, so my tip there is to get the main piece first and then decide what your accessories and what you want to do with it. You might even have something in your own wardrobe. So, and don't expect to find everything at one store. So start shopping for the event early. I've been shopping for this wedding since probably July. And, so that way you can get like the shoes, the purse, the jewelry, etc. Some of them you might find thrifting online. You might find them on eBay or Shop Goodwill. You might find, might make several trips to a few thrift stores in your area and kind of piece together the items from there. So I wouldn't just set foot in one thrift store and expect to find everything, because, you might not have. Think of the items, like I said, you already have in your current wardrobe that you can pair with other items for inspiration. And then it's nice to have options. That is one advantage of thrifting. So like, for example, last weekend when I went to New York City, I decided to go with gold accessories, and I had a gold handbag, but then I decided that a backpack that I also had would probably be more utilitarian and better for, a situation like going into New York City. So I had options though. And then it's also like a special event could be like a costume party, like a Halloween party or a festival outfit, so you can get really creative with some of those options. And so I have some things to show, few things to show in hand, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Oh, Brian, I did mean to say this at the top of the show that, of course, a lot of this is a little bit more geared towards feminine clothing because that's what we wear. But if you are more masculine on the spectrum, a lot of this can sort of just be a little bit like altered. Of course, men generally have an easier time dressing up for nice events because a suit's pretty standard. But
if you get your suit first, then you can shop for your tie and your shoes and anything else, your tie tack or whatever that you want to get to match. So it applies the same. I know it's a little simpler for men. So I
do that for Chris. Actually, I'm always thrifting different ties, and then when they finally have a chance to wear one, there's like 20 to choose from.
There you go. So I decided to go with silver. So I was in Philly last week, and I happened to stop at a brand new consignment shop that I did.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I found I was looking on eBay. I was looking all over for the perfect silver bag. I did have a little tiny clutch, but it was so tiny that my phone wouldn't fit in it. So I found the perfect one, and it does have a chain, and I left the price tag on it. It was.
Wow, not bad.
Yeah. So, and I got these on eBay. So they are
so perfectly.
Yeah. So I got silver shoes, and I had this in case I get cold. I actually had this. It's like a kind of a shawl. So it's Nicole Miller, and I actually had it in my inventory. So I was like, okay.
Cool. And Nicole Miller is a Philly brand, Philly-based.
Yeah. So, and I believe I got it in Philly. And then I also thrifted fold-up flats for.
Love those.
I got these on
Always eBay. Bring those. Yeah.
They were pre-owned, but they're like in perfect condition.
Yeah, they look basically.
If my feet hurt in those high heels at the end of the night at the wedding, I can.
When you want to really get dancing, Yeah.
Yeah. So here is the bag I took to New York City.
Oh, love it. Oh, Angelique says we need a picture of you all dressed up. Definitely.
Oh yeah, I will do that. So this is Perlina. It's a vintage backpack. So I took this to New York City. It was perfect.
That's beautiful. Do you know much about the brand? Because that's not one I'm familiar with.
It's an Italian brand. They are like they're famous for their backpacks like this. I had a sling bag that accidentally got donated. I don't want to talk about that. So I replaced it with this, and
it looks like the leather looks beautiful.
It's leather. It is very
really
high end, very high quality bag. Some of them can go for, I mean, they don't go for a whole lot. Like this one would probably sell for about $40, maybe $50.
Oh, that's not, I mean,
no.
About wanting one now. That's not bad.
That I had would have gone for more. Again, I don't want to discuss that, but yeah. It was more of a sling bag, but this is perfect for New York City. And then at that same consignment store when I was in Philly last week, I love Nike Flex because they're so lightweight. So what I did was I bought these and I wore these to New York City, and then it was like a fancy restaurant. So I brought my heels in the backpack and I just changed into my heels before I went into the restaurant and put these in my backpack. So that was perfect. So think about think about the special event, what you're doing for it, and what you need. And then one last thing I will show is, I'll show my Instagram here. So that's one of my college friends and I on the left when I went to New York City. You can kind of see what I'm wearing there. So I brought a cardigan basic black cardigan that I had thrifted. Nothing exciting, but always have one of these. We'll talk about basics. But here is the dress that I wore, and this was also thrifted, and my necklace was thrifted. So so it worked out really well. I just paired everything together and had something for my event. So
love it. And Heather wants to know how you're doing your hair, because the green dress looks perfect for your hair, which definitely
I would probably wear it up. So I will probably do like an updo, do some sort. So yeah. So then our next one is always be on the lookout for basic wardrobe essentials. So again, I talked about this black cardigan. This goes with everything. It's big, it's oversized. I can wear it, like with leggings or jeans and dress it down. I can wear it to a fancy restaurant like I did in New York City if I get cold over a nice dress. So and there's a lot of checklists that out there. This is one of them. Like a white button-down shirt, a flannel button-down, turtlenecks, neutral sweaters, a cardigan, denim jacket. And you should always be on the lookout for these wardrobe essentials. And for men too, jeans, a black sports coat. You can it can apply to men as well, of course. So look in the black clothing for the staple black pants, little black dress, etc. The black clothing has a lot of hidden gems in it. We've talked about that. Look for versatile pieces that can be paired with a lot of different items. And Lola, you said you had a comment there too.
Yeah, so I sort of talked about this already when I was talking about my flannel shirts, but I love part of my staples are just the kind of ratty clothes I can wear around the house, like the stuff I wear while I'm listing. A couple of my favorite thrifted items ever have been really high-end yoga pants. So even though they're a little broken in, they're not in perfect condition, they're very expensive brands that are meant to last a long time. And so I get a lot of wear out of them, and I save a ton of money because I'm not paying $150 for a pair of yoga pants. And I always like, finding those gems and then pairing them with a funky and unusual like tourist t-shirt, something that's like high end and low end. And you can find both of those things at the same time at a thrift store. And they're just really nice to have, a whole bunch of in my wardrobe. So if I'm getting ready in the morning and I know I'm going to be listing or working during the day, I can just sort of throw them on and not worry too much about it, and save my energy for when I'm dressing up for special occasions.
Yes. Shawls and capes are good too. Absolutely. Because you always like that one that I happen to have already in my it was really in my listing pile, but now I think I'm just going to keep it but that's a great thing, like for a special event to always have.
Yeah.
Here's
and the
another
nice thing about being a reseller is that you can wear that item once and then list it. And then if you have another event coming up, you can take the money you made from selling it and go and buy your next dress. And you can, parts of your wardrobe can always be changing and evolving if that's what you want it to be.
Lori, I don't know if you saw this. Lori said that she sold a lot of Perlino wallets and coin purses.
Oh, yeah.
It is very, very high quality leather.
I love good leather.
Perlina I love Perlina. Mm-hmm. So here's another checklist of, some suggestions of wardrobe basics. There's a lot of them out there. So, but wardrobe staples are definitely something rather plentiful in the thrifts and easy to find, and something that you should just always, even if you're just thrifting for reselling, always be on the lookout for those.
Oh, yeah. Heather mentioned the LuLaRoe documentary. I think that is out on Amazon now. I have not watched it yet. I've been dying to watch it.
Yeah, I've heard about it too. I have not.
We will have to go watch it, and then we can give a little review and chat about it maybe next week or the week after, since next week we have a guest.
Yeah. So our next one is to shop outside of your usual gender or department. So this of course applies for women, but look in the lingerie section for camisoles and slips that can double as dresses or lacy tops under a blazer, or look in the men's section for oversized shirts that can be belted and worn as a dress, or, just a comfy, loungy shirt. Unisex t-shirts. Remember that items are often put back in the wrong section or miscategorized. So there can be women's clothing in the men's section, men's in the women's in the children's section. You never know, because people just kind of randomly put things back. And sometimes the thrift store employees don't realize that it's actually a men's shirt, not a women's shirt, and they'll stick it in the women's section, or, vice versa. So, I have a couple of examples of some men's shirts that I got at the bin. So this one is ridiculously enormous on me, especially now that I've lost weight. It's like huge. It's a denim shirt.
Oh, that looks cozy though.
Yeah. It's like Basic Editions, which I think is like an old school Walmart brand or something. It's nothing high.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's actual denim, and it's just like a men's shirt that I wear. I'll wear it to bed. I'll wear it like around the house. Mm-hmm. This is one of my all-time favorite flannels. I was with you when I got it at the bins. Remember where there were like a ton of men's shirts at one time?
Yes. And you know what's so funny is I took a bunch of those shirts and I wasn't sure what I was going to do with them. And they ended up becoming my first masks at the beginning of the pandemic. So I was really glad I bought them.
This one is an older Gap.
Nice. I love
the collar is now fraying on the inside. I've worn it so much. And I think it was, it was pretty broken in when I found it in the bins. It is 100% cotton, but I wear it like constantly. It's huge on me. It's an extra large. It like swims on me, but I wear it like to bed. I wear it around the house. I'm always in this. So, and those were both men's, they were in.
Yeah, and so that's like I've been talking about my flannel shirts. I get all my flannel shirts from the men's section. I mean, you can find them in the women's section, but I also find that often if it's not like a smaller juniors shirt or like pink, that it does get miscategorized. Yeah, so often we know the thrift store workers work so hard. They're going through so many items and putting them out on the floor as fast as possible. It's easy for things to get miscategorized. And one of my favorite sales also from sort of that perspective was a pair of jeans that were men's jeans I found in the women's section. So you just never know where you're going to find something. And if you have the time to comb through the store, just like look in every nook and cranny.
Absolutely. So yeah. So that is probably I think that's one of my favorite tips.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Don't be restricted to your standard size. So that is another one. So like I said,
goes hand in hand. So don't just look at your usual size on the rack.
Yeah. So, also Lola, you had also added, kind of goes with the last one. Don't forget to thrift out of season too.
Oh yeah.
So
if you're in the store, usually thrift stores will bring out, more sweaters in the winter, more jackets in the winter, more tank tops in the summer, that kind of thing. But there will often be a rack of out of season clothing, and those can be very overlooked, that, you know, the rest of the store could be picked over, but there's a gem hidden there that no one's looked for because they're just not thinking about, you know, buying a sweater in the middle of August. So you could be the one who grabs it, put it aside until it comes back in season. And, you know, that's how I found some of my favorite items is out of season.
Yeah, you can always plan ahead and set them aside for the following season. Or I've bought sweaters in the middle of July when I'm not even thinking about wearing it. But the point is, you know, when it gets cold, I have this gorgeous sweater that I wouldn't have found in
exactly
that time of the year. So yeah, so remember that if you really love something, it can be altered to fit. It's already a steal at a thrift store price. So even if you're not savvy, if you don't sew yourself, paying for alterations still won't break you since you didn't invest much in the first place.
Remember, it's a great opportunity to go to a local business. Usually they're, you know, people in our community who take in alterations. So it's one way that you can give back to your community.
Yeah, I remember. I just personally, I love rompers in general, the way they look on other people, but not the way they look on me. They just don't ever look good on me. So I found this awesome romper once, and I took it to my back when I lived in Philly, I took it to my local dry cleaner seamstress, and she turned it into a dress. So
that's so smart.
I couldn't have done that myself. So yeah, and I paid, you know, not much for it, but you know, so remember that sizes are not standard between brands and styles. And remember that modern day sizes and vintage sizes run differently. So often, for example, like a vintage 8 will be like, will be with the modern size 8s, but a vintage 8 is like, you know, a modern like size 4, you know, 2, yeah. So many brands have vanity sizing, like Chico's, for example, it's like a 1, 2, 3. So you really, if you don't know that, then
Angelique mentions this too, that sometimes the brands you just know are going to be you size up or you size down because that's how that brand fits.
Yeah. Try it on if you can. If there are no fitting rooms, or if you don't want to try on in a fitting room, wear something basic and comfy that's not too loose, that it's easy to try things on over. That especially goes, you know, it's easier for jackets or whatever, but know your measurements and how to measure. Refer to our episode on measurements. And also thrifting is great when you are losing weight and in between sizes. Like I just dropped, you know, like 45 pounds, and I'm still not quite at my goal weight, but I'm not, you know, I can't fit into my larger sizes anymore. So I'm kind of in size limbo. So I don't want to spend a lot on a wardrobe in a size that I'm not going to be wearing forever. So it's great to be able to, you know, thrift those kind of in between sizes pieces. So it's great for that too. Sure. Here is an example of, this is an article about vintage sizing versus modern sizing. So they talk about how Marilyn Monroe was back then. You've heard about, she was a size 14. Well, she wasn't actually, she was a modern size 8. So think about that. She was a size 14 then, she would have been an 8 today. So, size is just a number. And so they talk about there's a lot of, inflation with vanity sizing. So this is a really great article. So, and then they also talk about pattern size. Pattern sizing is another guide that you can use for guide for vintage sizes to modern day. And here's an example of a vintage size chart that compares like the body measurements from then until now. So like a vintage size 16 had like a 35-inch bust at the time. Today it would have like a 40-inch bust, or, you know, so big difference. So that's, you know, and this is a loose guide, of course, because again, even back then brands and, you know, sizes still varied, but loosely, a lot of vintage sizing is smaller. So
it pays off to look through all the sizes, because you don't know when something that is larger or smaller is filed away with what you would think of as like the 8s or the 6s or whatever.
So our next one is, don't be afraid to take a chance, especially on low or no cost items. So if you can't try something on or aren't too sure about buying it, take a chance. And remember that even if you aren't already a reseller, you can always start reselling and get your money or more back, you know, that way. So it's really not that much of a gamble in that sense. You can also repurpose it. You can always like turn a cool print dress into a pillow cover or something, you know, something. So, and it's also a great way to be able to experiment with styles and trends. If a trend doesn't stay in style for long or you get bored of it, you can always recycle, resell, or redonate it while having little invested. A great way to try out new colors or styles and have a continuously fresh and rotating wardrobe. So you could have a different outfit for every day of the year. And, theoretically, because, you're know how to get free or low cost wardrobe items. So some stores will give you credits. I know Savers does this. Our local ones here don't, but they'll give you credits or discounts if you donate items. So, see if your local thrift store has that. Consider consigning and getting money back to spend on clothing in the store. You can also buy items for yourself while buying other items to resell for a profit, and essentially pay for your own items and make a profit. So you're basically getting your own clothing for free that way.
That was really how I first started listing. Was I would go thrifting and I would try to buy at least one item that I would list on Poshmark that would sell for however much I paid in the store. And then I sort of got the bug going.
Yep. Yeah. It's so shop on sale days and shop at the bins, and then keep an open mind. So be more forgiving with flaws and lower end brands, even if you aren't planning on reselling and keeping for yourself. So some of the clothes that I purchase for myself are brands that, I mean, even like if it's a Walmart brand, but you like it and it's cute and it fits you, who cares? If it may not be something that you're going to resell, but it's if you're buying for yourself, then be a little more forgiving. Don't thrift with the reseller mind.
Yeah.
And
so my next tip is sort of the opposite of that. And I feel like sometimes we have a little bit of this is like one of the few times we have like a different mindset where you're more forgiving about like lower end brands when you thrift for yourself. For me, I tend to like to thrift as a way to get the wardrobe that I would love to be able to afford, but I can't.
I do that too, though. So I do.
Yeah, you do a little bit more of a mix.
Both, but it doesn't bother, like the lower end stuff doesn't bother me as much. The flaws don't. But on the other hand, I love to have a good piece in my wardrobe, right. And
you definitely know and appreciate really well made clothing.
Definitely. So it goes both ways. I've got Prada in my own personal wardrobe. I've got Gucci. I've got, and they are all items that I have thrifted and decided to keep because, but I've also got Target and Walmart that I've thrifted. And
sometimes that's part of the fun too, though, is that you have these brands in your one closet that normally you would never expect to find together. And that's sort of the fun about thrifting too, is it's all in one place. So I think one of the best skills that you can cultivate for thrifting is just getting to know the feel of high-end materials and construction. So one great tool that you can use is just your hands. Like when you're going through a rack, you can tend to feel the quality of the fabric, and that's something that you can sort of gain over time. So it can be a feel of like the weight. It can be a feel of how well the fabric is made, that it's a really like well done weave. It's a little tighter. So these are things you can start to feel if you are going to like a high-end department store and browsing. You can look and touch everything and kind of get an idea of what you're looking for in the thrift store. If you're intimidated by going into like Neiman Marcus, or if you want to go somewhere that you might actually find something you can afford, a high-end consignment store is a really good place to do that as well. And then look on the inside of the garment to check for details of construction. So this is something I brought up last week when I was talking about the bias binding that was on one item. I think it was Heather's jacket. So that's sort of the kind of thing that shows there was extra time, extra money and attention put into making the garment. That's going to be a higher end garment. Yeah. So is this a blog post that you found?
Yeah, that I just wanted to really quickly, and we'll put so this is talking about fabric. It's talking about how to identify high end, and they do talk about natural fibers too. So
yeah, so like natural fibers is one thing that's great to look for, but it's increasingly now even high-end brands are using polyester. So sometimes just looking at the label isn't going to tell you the full story, but a polyester from high-end brands should be better quality than polyester from Forever 21 or Walmart.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of thing that you can start to feel.
Yeah. I mean, it talks about all kinds of things. And then it talks about like a shrink test, which you can't do in the thrift store. Right. You know, but it does talk about, you know, the construction like you're talking about and all different and the feel of the fibers and, you know, so that this is a good blog post to, you know, to check out about identifying high end.
Yeah, like another good thing to look for is if you're looking at sweaters, that the sweaters will, if they're lower end, they will have a serged edge on the inside, but they will be sewn by hand if they're higher end, or they won't be sewn at all. So those are the kind of things that you can learn by reading kind of the blog posts that are similar to the ones that Nate pulled up, or books. I find it super useful in my thrifting life to know how to knit and sew. So, you know, sometimes having that different expertise can come in handy as well.
Yeah. So Brian says that he thrifts the better brands. And, you know, and it is nice to have some of those better, like I would never personally go into Lululemon and buy something, but I've got a Lululemon hoodie that I thrifted that I love, you know, and not that I have any, I just think that it's obnoxiously overpriced for what you're, but
it holds up really well, and getting it
does. So I've got like a, you know, like a close to $200 hoodie in my wardrobe that, you know.
Yeah. And one thing I love about being able to tell on the rack if something is well made is that you don't have to rely on memorizing all of the good brands. So I think between Day and I, especially, we have like an encyclopedic knowledge of different brands, but there's still ones that we don't know. And there's still ones that we come across that are new to us. So being able to identify what makes something high quality helps you then find that brand that you've never heard before. And the other thing that it's nice to keep in mind is that just like Nay's older Gap shirt, sometimes there are brands that were higher quality that aren't as much anymore today. So it's nice to be able to go into the thrift store and look for those older pieces and recognize whether or not they're that holy grail item that was made better. So J. Crew is a great example of that.
Yeah.
I've talked about one of my favorite items in my own wardrobe
is this Gap shirt is much higher quality because it's older Gap than the current.
I have a silk shirt from Express that I love that I've definitely worn in the show before, that you just wouldn't find 100% silk shirt in Express today, but in the 80s you did, in the 90s you did. So
this is also made in USA. Today it would be made in China. So that's another tip off. Not always, because things were made in China and are made in USA today that aren't. But for the most part, if you see an older like mall brand that says made in USA, you know that it's probably going to be better quality. Yeah. So our next tip is know your deal breakers.
So this is something that I definitely struggle with, because it is easy to find that amazing item in the thrift store that just needs a little TLC, but then like you have to be honest with yourself whether or not you're actually going to get around to it. So I think it's really helpful to know what flaws you're going to actually get around to fixing, or that you don't mind that they're that way. So if you're actually going to sew on a button, if you're actually going to sew shut a hole that you found, that kind of thing. Nice. Yeah. And jerseys are so expensive.
I know. So yeah, see.
So like Nay, you mentioned deal breakers for you being like crumbling soles, which you just can't recover. You can't fix that.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, if you're gonna, or if there's if there's a pair of sneakers that you love, but the treads on the bottom are really well worn, you're not gonna get much life out of those. So is it really worth, you know, for a few wears and then you're gonna have to toss them? Is it really worth to pick them up? So. Yeah. So I agree. Like, I guess I'm like kind of rare in the fact that if I like it and it's, you know, I'm more forgiving, but on the other hand, I'm kind of like a juxtaposition of my two, because I also love high quality, high end stuff. So my wardrobe is a total mix.
Yeah. And Heather says estate sales are a great place to find quality clothing.
Sorry. I was trying to click off of that one. And
we both did at the same time. Yeah, I need to get to more estate sales. That's something
Yeah,
that I do not do as much as I would like. And I think for me, in my experience, it matters a little bit where you are, because like thrifting in Philly and New York City, you could throw a stone and hit a high-end item in a thrift store. But definitely out here where I am now in Western Massachusetts, thrifting's a lot different. There's better flannel. There's not as much designer clothing.
Yeah. Yeah, we did, and it does matter. It is regional because in Philly, like we found high-end designer stuff all the time.
And even in thrift stores that weren't in what you would call like the nicer areas, which is sometimes a tip you get a lot, but I think I found the most designer stuff in the thrift stores that were not in the fanciest areas by any means. So I think it matters a little bit more just what region you're in than.
Remember the day that you just found like a bunch of St. John dresses, like all back to back.
And it was like half off day or something, and it was ridiculous. Yeah. So one thing I try to do is like keep my mending pile or my like this needs to be carefully hand washed, and the stain removal pile is low. So if I know that my pile is kind of getting up and I find something that day, sometimes I just have to walk away because it's going to get overwhelming. I mean, you know what it's like to have a death pile, like that's hard enough. But when you actually have to put time and energy into fixing something, like I think it's important to know your limits and make sure that if you're taking something home, it's something that you can repair and that you'll get to.
Yeah. I have and I've shown these before. So I have these gorgeous Karl Lagerfeld shoes.
I remember those.
Yeah. So these are mine because they fit me perfect. The leather's like butter. I love them. But now, when I purchased them, they weren't like this, but this is an example of something that would be kind of like I would have still purchased in a flaw. Like this would not have been a deal breaker. So my cat decided to scratch the back of them. So I was going to resell them. They are no longer, my cat has rendered them, my cat is out of my resale pile. I don't know why he never does this, but he targeted my Karl Lagerfelds. But if I were to see these in the thrift store, I would have still bought them like this. But now they're mine and I'm okay with it. Like I'm actually going to polish them a little bit in the back, and it's not really that noticeable when you're wearing them because it's on the back.
No, but it's the kind of thing you wouldn't want to necessarily list because it's enough damage that at least for me, I'd be concerned that the buyer fully understands the extent of the damage and isn't going to return them. So
exactly. So these have become mine, but if I did find them this way in the thrift store, I probably would have still picked them up for myself. So that's an example of something that, one of the things I'm still angry with my cat about, but I guess, I would not have kept them otherwise. So anyway. So our next tip is
plan ahead of time. So this kind of goes back to what Nay was talking about before with looking for staples. And I actually also was going to mention looking at those like checklists of wardrobe items to look for. And I saw in the chat, Chris had a question about whether they're available to print. I am sure that exists. I don't know if the ones that Nay pulled up are specifically, but if you Google like a great term is capsule wardrobe printable checklist or something like that, I'm sure you would find something that you could print out and take with you to the store. And
I will pop those links into the description sometime later today.
That's awesome. So I love Pinterest also for that. It's a great way to just kind of throw all of the ideas that you're finding in one place so you can reference them later.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that a challenge I've always had with my wardrobe is, especially as a thrifter, is finding things I love and buying them and then forgetting to buy the rest of the outfit. So it can be really helpful, and it can also make thrifting a little bit less overwhelming if you go in with a few things on your mind that you're looking for. So say you found like a really fun, funky shirt and you need some more subdued pants to go with them. It helps to have a broad idea, because if you're too specific, you're probably not going to find that in the thrift store that day. But, you could say you're going to look for either a dark pair of jeans or a neutral dark colored pair of slacks or something like that to make that outfit work. I find it really useful to actually, like have that checklist or keep notes and make it something that I can go back and reference on my phone, like in the notes app or something like that, because it is really easy to forget. And then when you go to finally pull out that great thrifted find, you don't have everything else to make it a whole outfit, and it's hard to coordinate. So
Yeah.
especially because thrifting does take patience. It might take more than one trip to the thrift store to find all of those gaps and fill them. So it's good to keep track and remember what you're looking for over time.
Our next one is
focus on your personal style. So I think thrifting is a great way to push yourself to focus on that and to worry less about what's trending, what's popular, fashionable in the moment. Nay already mentioned this a little bit, so I think I'm just sort of expanding on it. But even though it's totally possible to find current trends in the thrift store, and we talk about that all the time with, what's trending with like Y2K and 90s vintage and things like that, it can be frustrating because you do have to have a little bit of an open mind, and you're not going to have the same experience going into a department store, fast fashion mall store, and just have everything laid out for you. So if you're a new thrifter, especially, it can be hard to kind of shift gears, but I think it's really important to just like listen to your own instincts and listen to what draws you, and that sometimes can really surprise you if it's not the color that's in season or in style right now, but you find it on a thrift store rack and you're totally drawn to it. Like, follow that instinct, and it might lead you to new directions for your own style and allowing yourself to realize what you really love that shopping in a normal mall store wouldn't, because there just isn't that broad spectrum of clothing available. It's usually what's very like narrowly in style and fashion in that moment.
Yeah. I do know, like you mentioned, like some of the trends come around again, like the 90s or the Y2K. So on the other hand, like if there is a trend that's like kind of recycling through, it's a good chance to try the trend, but definitely, thrift on like, what you like and what.
Right. And like you said, it's also a great chance to try something and decide you don't like it. So that's one of the beauties of thrifting, is you're not investing in money.
I think.
Oh no, Nay, you froze. Is it you or me?
Oh, I thought you froze. I don't know. No. But I think we're good now.
Okay. Oh, fingers crossed. We're almost done. So hopefully I'll stick around.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
The last one is.
Yeah. So the flip side of, taking advantage of times when you're not paying a ton of money for an item is that sometimes it is okay to pay up. And if you're thrifting secondhand, when you're shopping for yourself, sometimes that could mean going to a consignment store, going to a like something I wouldn't technically call a thrift store, but like a nicer vintage store, something like that. If you're focused on sustainability and that's your main goal, then of course there's lots of different places where you can accomplish that and you're not buying brand new clothing. But it's also one thing that I really love having the flexibility of doing as a reseller, because I know that if I'm buying an item that's a little pricier, there's probably still going to be an opportunity to turn around and resell it, that the item has some value that it's holding. So either I could break even or even, make a profit if I buy something and pay a little bit more than I'm used to, but decide I don't love it. So like a great example is the Fry boots that I sold recently and showed on Market Report, where I definitely paid more than I normally would pay for a pair of shoes at the thrift store, because I bought them on Shop Goodwill, and I think all told, including shipping and their handling fees and stuff, I think I paid like $45 for them. I wore them once. They were just like not quite me. Like I was really glad that I pushed myself out of my comfort zone and tried a different kind of like, it was like a motorcycle style of boot. So I listed them and I doubled my money. And I got to try that and got that out of my system, and then realized it wasn't what I was looking for. So there's definitely advantages to, you know, paying a little bit more, because that is often nowadays how you will find higher end brands. Unfortunately, you know, with Shop Goodwill taking a lot of those items out of the store or them being put behind the counter, or if you just want to make it a little bit easier to find, instead of having the patience of going and thrifting on a regular basis to find those, you know, rare items, just to go to that consignment store and have a better selection. So definitely not the end of the world to pay up.
Yeah, I mean, you know, sometimes there's those items in the, like as Angelique said, in the boutique section, in the behind the counter, you know, and if you do see this amazing item that, you know, costs $100, maybe there's no room for resale, but
if it's 20, 30, even 50, I mean, what it is. Yeah.
So yeah, we have a couple comments.
Yeah, that's a great strategy too. So you can sort of know that you're going to trade something up over time. You go with the first one you find, and then when you find something better and better condition, a better brand, resell the old one and buy the new one.
That's a great strategy, Anne. Yeah, that's fantastic. Brian said, yeah, usually waits for half price and it's still there. That's true too.
I try to do both at the same time, but I do find that it is a little bit of like a different part of your brain, that if I'm going and shopping for myself, I will notice and like be drawn to different things. And if I'm shopping for resale. So and I feel like it is a different thrifting experience.
Yeah. So this week we're going to do something a little different. So we're going to kind of combine our our breaking news and the segment. So we have, this is a very big surprise. I found these. So Pokemon, if I if I show highest sold first. So apparently these Pokemon Oreos came out, and there's a certain one called a Mew Oreo, and people are selling them for insane money on, which is insane. I mean, I'm sorry.
How many? Okay, so these are auctions. How many do you think actually paid? That's what I'm just really
wondering. I don't know, because that doesn't, you know, they might have gone on the auction, and then so there's one that sold with some cards. So I don't know. I mean, some of these people, I would assume, maybe paid. I don't know, but this is insane. So yeah, apparently the Mew Oreo is the hot like grilled cheese Jesus face thing, you know.
That's hilarious. So Angelique says she bought 4 bags. Did you get any good Pokemon?
Okay. Yeah, so interesting.
Money. I mean, it could be. Yeah, I've definitely seen.
Yeah, but some of them, I mean, okay, so if you get down to the lower end, the more reasonable ones, I bet, you know, like
here's $50 for a single Oreo. I would be so scared to ship that.
Yeah, I know.
How do you ship that?
So yeah, so some of them, I think they're more believable when they get down to like the $50 range and lower. But, you know, there's still definitely, people are still selling them for a profit. So here's a 10 of them that went for $31. That's a little more believable to me. But yeah, that's crazy. So apparently, so cutting right into our breaking news. So here's the article about it. So yeah, so people are listing their Pokemon Oreos for as much as $15,000. So it was about, so apparently the Pokemon Oreo collaboration was available for pre-order on September 8th for $388, but to prevent hoarding, the company only allowed up to 3 boxes per customer. So I guess people are trying, a week later, people began posting listings on eBay to sell the rarest one, which features the character Mew. Prices vary for the Mew listings, which go from as low as $550 and up to $15,000. So you have to think that the higher ones are more of a joke, I would think, but
probably, but still. So my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that these are Oreos that each have a Pokemon on the cookie.
Exactly.
And the cookies are, some of them are rarer than others, just like in the game. So Mew is like the rarest Pokemon, so it's the rarest Oreo. Um, and people are paying for those rare Pokemon.
Yeah, I guess so. So,
And I guess so the Oreos themselves don't seem like they're that hard to find, but the rare Pokemon on the Oreo
that's what it
is.
seems like. Yeah, so they come in 16 different designs. So they have like Pikachu, Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle. I think I said those names right because of my little one. He will correct me if I say it wrong. So yeah, so I guess the cookies. So those who would like to collect them, all will have to buy multiple packages, as the cookies were packed randomly. So interesting, kind of like the McDonald's bags that we showed a few weeks ago from the BTS meal. Yeah.
Do you want to hear my really sad Pokemon story?
Sure.
So my uncle owns some comic book shops, and when Pokemon cards were really big, I was super into them, and because I was a nerdy kid. And so for Christmas, for a bunch of years, I would just get all of these packs of Pokemon cards from my uncle, and it was the best thing ever. And one Christmas, I got the Charizard super rare Pokemon card, and I like knew it was really valuable. I put it away. I didn't touch it. And at some point, when my parents sold my childhood home, they got rid of a ton of my stuff, including my Pokemon card collection, which now would be worth several $1,000s easily.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a sad story.
And someone probably got an amazing deal at a yard sale, and I hope someone sold it on eBay and made tons of money, because I didn't, and I want to at least know that someone out there is happy.
Oh, that's horrible. So our market report. So Lola, you are up first. Okay, so tell us about this.
I think both of these items have been on the show. So this was in one of our hauls, and it was the last thing I remember. It was the last thing I found at thrift store. I just grabbed it off the rack while I was like heading to the register, and crossed my fingers it was in good condition, and it was in pristine condition. It was perfect. So sold it on Depop. Was really happy. I love this. I think I actually did wear it on a show.
I did. Yeah, I know. I recognize it. So.
Yeah, so I'm super happy that it's going to someone I hope will love it.
And that's a vintage, one of the vintage labels. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely
100% nice. Linen, just like looked like it had barely been worn. Really, really pristine.
That's a good example of like a mall brand that's vintage. That was higher quality when it was vintage. Yep. Yeah.
Although Talbot's is still pretty good quality.
Yeah, but I would agree with you there. But
and then it's so funny that this dress is the one I almost wore last week and then didn't. I had it listed forever, you can tell, because I had this background that I don't use anymore. I think it was hard to sell because it was handmade and it was made for a very specific person. So the arms, like the sleeves, were very narrow. I remember trying this on when I first found it, and I was so bummed because it fit me really well, except for my arms were too big for the sleeves. So I did note that in the listing, and it sat for quite a while, which I was surprised because especially like a 60s dress that this is the size, it's like a modern 10 to 12, harder to find. So I ended up just taking an offer of $20 because I'd had it sitting for so long. But
well, you still did.
I think it is harder to sell handmade dresses, even nice vintage ones.
So I just sold this one yesterday, and it was a vintage Guy Laroche blazer. So it was wool. It was really pretty. You can see
talking about finding those thrifted staples. This is a really nice one.
It is, yeah. So, and it was a decent size too. Yeah. So. Probably something I could have kept in my wardrobe, but didn't. But it was a really pretty blazer, and I did accept a best offer of $40. It did sit for a while. It's a high-end brand, but not one of those really sought-after high-end brands. But I did have it actually up on Depop. I had it on eBay, and I had it on Poshmark, and it sold on eBay. So you just never know. But the buttons on it were so pretty. You can see like they were.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, so that went out yesterday, and then I have this one, I'm sorry. I have a Depop sale too. So this was a 80s vintage Liz wear. It was a
Liz Claiborne, another example of those lower end brands.
So, and you can see there, made in USA. It was a cotton blend. So that's a good example. And it was a petite.
So fun.
Yeah. So, but that sold for $25 plus shipping. So not bad. Yeah. So, and I think I got this one in the bins, if I remember right.
Oh, wow. So that's a great sale then.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that one came from the bins a long time ago. So I had, not listed it like right away, but yeah, it was like that perfect Depop item though.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then we have a question. Oh, we have a question for you. So what is your favorite thrifted personal wardrobe item? Let us know in the YouTube comments.
Or if you have any tips to share, things that you like to, rules to live by for your own thrifting and your own wardrobe, definitely would love to know.
Yes. And as always, you can find us on, we're mostly, again, Run Lola Run or Thrifting A, except on eBay, where we are Colbright Asterisk Dazzle and Low 2-Spy. Email us at nailothrifts@gmail.com if you have an idea for an upcoming video, you want to be a future guest, or you have any other comments or anything. We love to hear from our viewers. So. And
just a reminder that next week we do have a different time. So instead of on Friday, we are going live on Wednesday evening, and hopefully we will see some new faces in the chat who don't normally get to come. So hopefully that'll work out for some people.
Yeah. I just wanted to post Lisa's comment. So yeah, so sometimes you can get things for nothing too for yourself. So that's always a plus.
Buy nothing groups are an incredible resource. They're a great way to get rid of stuff that you, for whatever reason, aren't going to list, and they're a great way to get things that you need for nothing.
Oh, so Lisa also said, as a follow-up from last week, from our dud episode, so that plaque that we had shown, that her listing, so she crossed it on eBay. So, well, let us know, Lisa, if it sells. If any of you guys, if any of your items that we helped you with, if they sold, let us know.
Yeah, I would definitely love to hear it.
Have a great week, everyone, and we'll see you in less than a week on Wednesday night. So, look forward to it.
Bye.
Bye.